Why do you believe in composting organic waste?
Why do I believe it's important because it limits the amount of food residue that goes into our landfills.
How did you start composting and what made you want to keep going?
Start composting? I probably started when I was real small. My dad had a compost heap in the backyard, which is just all the leaves from the trees that deciduous trees lose their leaves in the fall. That's the kind of tree is a deciduous tree. And my dad would compost those leaves. So I probably started when I was 10 maybe, I guess. And when I found out what composting was, and we started seeing worms and stuff like that.
Do you enjoy composting?
I love it.
Okay,
Composting
what's your favorite part about it?
Oh my God, just getting in there with the worms and just seeing the life that comes from food residue and leaves and decomposing matter. It's funny because there's actually a lot going on in a compost heap that you don't really realize unless you take the time to observe a compost. There's a lot going on in there.
Right. If you could get the chance to speak with the mayor about composting, what would you say and why? Like the mayor of Austin.
You mean Greg Adler?
Greg Adler.
The new one?
Yes.
Because there was just a recent mayor, but there's a new mayor now.
The new mayor.
Right. In November we had elections. If I got the opportunity to speak to him about composting, I would applaud the city's initiative to go to a zero waste city. I don't know if you knew that Austin wants to be zero waste by like 2050 or something.
That's good.
What that means is all the paper and recyclables that we consume would be recycled, and all of the vegetable food residues would be composted. And so that would limit the amount of stuff that gets thrown in the landfill. And so I would champion that.
How would composting help kids learn about keeping our planet clean?
We throw away a lot of stuff as it is. Paper plates can be recycled. We can purchase plates that are recyclable. In the lunch cafeteria line, for example, they give us styrofoam plates, which are not recyclable.
So you would want to change that?
I think it should be changed. Absolutely. Yeah. Styrofoam is going to be around forever. Styrofoam is going to outlive us. Paper plates won't. Paper plates can be broken down. And you have to be taught that in order to know about that. So the change really begins with education.
Right. When someone says waste management, what do you think of and why?
I think of bathrooms when I think of waste management. But like in relationship to compost, I think of my apartment complex that has a recycle bin, but we don't have a compost bin. But I also live in an apartment, so I don't know who would take care of the compost. Maybe the city of Austin could come through and collect food materials, food residues, as well as recyclables.
Do you think that the city of Austin should like ask community places to start compost, or like make that like a something that's like required when you have a public place, like a not like a restaurant, but like places where they go, like apartment complexes,
like shared living?
Right.
No, I don't think the city of Austin would be able to ask people in shared living to monitor their own food residues, because people would just throw it away. It's too easy to throw it away. Composting requires work, and in a shared living condition, it kind of makes it difficult because some people would inevitably end up working more, and other people would end up working not at all, and so it creates problems.
So if someone was to want to start a compost pile, how do you start off a compost pile?
2 parts dry to 1 part green. That's the ratio. General, very, very basic ratio. You have dry compostable materials such as leaves and papers and stuff like that, and you have wet compostable materials. Browns versus greens, wets versus dries. And so 2 parts brown or dry to 1 part wet or green.
Where in Austin would it be most efficient to start a compost pile if someone was to try to start a compost pile?
Your own backyard. That's the most efficient place.
That's good.
That's the good way to start.
How do you think that, how do you think like a group of kids could spread the word of like composting and like the correct way to manage waste? Like, how do you think we could like spread the word about it?
As like group of kids, meaning Austin High School
Mm-hmm.
students and AGS.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You guys could start to deliver. I think what would be cool is, since everybody is learning about composting in AGS, if AGS took it to the greater Austin High community, and maybe you guys went into the different English class or rooms, or the different social studies classrooms, or even to the elementary schools. The elementary schools are actually doing that stuff. A lot of elementary schools have garden initiatives, and they have gardens on campus. They have recycling bins or heaps on campus. A lot of high schools don't.
Right, that's true. I think just because they're bigger, the high schools are bigger, it's like harder to get everyone to participate.
Right.
But so you do think Austin is a clean place? Like overall, you think Austin's pretty clean?
I've been to much dirtier places than Austin. Austin's
I
pretty
agree.
good.
I think it's pretty good. I mean, it's hard to go to Costa Rica and then come back and be like, because Costa Rica is insanely clean. But yeah, I definitely think Austin's a very clean, and plus because it's like very populated, it's like a city, and it's still really clean. There's a lot of like trees and green area.
But the people are conscientious in Costa Rica. They had to be taught that as well. Not
That's
all
true.
Latin American places are like that. Most of Latin America is very dirty.
Right. I think also what you mean by that is like when they're born, their families are like, they teach them that right off the bat. And so I feel like that's another reason why cities aren't as clean or taken care of, because people from all over come to cities, so they have all different types of cultures. And some cultures, like, you know, throw their toilet paper in the trash instead of flushing it, or like they don't, or they throw things away, don't recycle. Like some cultures aren't taught to do certain things. Like Costa Rican cultures are like, or the people that are in Costa Rica, like the brie, like they like use the plants as medicine, and like they don't use things that will hurt the environment. You know what I mean? So I feel like it just depends like what you were taught when you were born, or like when you were really young, and so it's kind of in our culture. So it's hard to tell a city full of people that like aren't taught that to change the way that they've been living, you know, and kind of like, because a lot of people don't recycle, and like they don't like feel the need to, which is like really annoying. But it's like, you know, it's hard to tell someone that have been like living a certain way to just totally change the way they're living and like compost or recycle.
So the cafeteria collaborates with the garden here on campus by giving us the food residue from the cafeteria from the lunch preparation, which is only vegetables. And from the beginning of the year, which is August 21st until now, the cafeteria has given us, the garden, 2,160 pounds of food residue, which is all decomposing or has already decomposed to produce rich, fertile compost that we in then turn use in our garden.
Mm-hmm.
So we have kept 2,160 pounds of vegetable matter out of landfills and on our campus decomposing. I mean, that's pretty significant.
Right.
That's just one high school.
Yeah.
There are 13 Austin area high schools. Imagine, that's like over 20,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Of waste.
That's insane. Yeah, I had no idea that they did that.
And think about it, there's over 100 schools. And I mean, there's a lot of potential there.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is just one initiative that we've taken here on campus. And I mean, it all starts with an idea, just like what you've got. So.
That's good.